Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wa salatu wa salamu ala Sayyidina wa Nabiyyina Muhammad wa ala alihi al-tahirin wa sahbihi al-muntajabeen. Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ala Muhammad wa ajal farajim. Sisters and brothers, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. We kind of unintentionally developed this strategy of Sunday morning dealing with two topics. A general topic first, and then focusing on one of the small chapters as Tafsir. Last week we addressed one of the probably most critical concepts, that was the Tawbah in various designation of it. And today I thought a complementary topic or theme to Tawbah, which is Tazkiyah, would work hand in hand, so that this is we understand how the dynamics of Tawbah would work for the benefit of Tazkiyah. And then after that we focus on Surah Masad or Abu Lahab, and we address it briefly, inshallah. When it comes to story of Genesis, by now we all know that humans are made of two components, what we call it the physical component, the human body, and the spiritual component. The physical component has a life of its own, technically beyond our control. Birth takes place. So long as sustenance is provided, then the physical growth continues. From the birth gets to childhood, then teenager, then adulthood, a period of strength, and then goes to period of weakness. Alaykum salam wa rahmatullah. We can bring another. We have really no control over the growth, the physical growth. We cannot stop it in the middle of its growth and say that it's not going. I don't like it. To happen. Growth, Quran, in various places, but particularly in one section that says that designates three phases of weakness, strength, and then again weakness. So the arc of ascension and the arc of descension. From the birth, you go through the arc of ascension until you get to literally to full strength, and after the strength, the period of sliding down and weakening starts. وَمَنْ نُعَمِّرْهُ نُنَكِّسْهُ فِي الْخَلْقِ. Ultimately, as umr and age gets longer and longevity goes on, it reaches a point where the weakness begins to develop. We have no control over it. The only thing that we need is a degree of sustenance and avoiding of, say, diseases, etc., etc. Where the critical component is in our hand is the spiritual. The spiritual component is literally a make or break for us, since life on this earth, according to numerous verses in the Holy Quran and a hadith, is going to end, and the degree of success and failure of our life in this earth will become clear on the Day of Judgment. And there is one verse that I never forget when I think about Ma'ad and the criteria. فَمَنْ زُحْزِحَ عَنِ النَّارِ وَأُدْخِلَ الْجَنَّةِ فَقَدْ فَازَ. If you want to understand some kind of a framework for success and failure, it becomes clear on the Day of Judgment. If the result of your deeds on this earth protects you from being punished, from the wrath of Allah, then you have succeeded. If not, then all the efforts have been nothing but failure. how do we go about establishing that success or not about it and ultimately leading to failure is the concept of tazkiyah. In Surah Al-Shams, قَدْ أَفْلَحَ مَنْ زَكَّاهَا وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Broadly speaking, two themes or two categories are defined. Those who do go through tazkiyah and purify the soul, they are the successful ones, and those who do not, they are the failed. And since tazkiyah is something which is not tangible, so to speak, what is the criteria by which we can judge whether we have been successful or not is to get closer to Allah. If the path that we choose leads us towards Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then ultimately it's the right path. And if it takes us away from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, then it is not the right path and not tazkiyah. So as we get qurb in the, another expression that is used in particularly Irfan, as we get nearer and closer to Allah, qurb, to get nearer to Allah, then the path of tazkiyah is successful. Huge amount of literature exists in Islam, particularly in mystical and Irfanic understanding regarding the path of tazkiyah, how arduous, long, and requires planning. It's not something that one can immediately quantum leap, jump and gain the full tazkiyah. We have to go through it. There is a khutbah in Nahj al-Balagha, khutbah 86, that Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salam alayhi identifies 33 characters within the khutbah of 86. Lists 33 characters for those what he calls aslahun nas, the ones that are successful and purified, and wa afsadun nas, those who have been corrupted. Some addresses the character of the purified, and some of these 33 conditions address the character of those who have been corrupted. But the essence is to be conscious of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and submit to the command of God. And this is not going to happen without a theme that we discussed last week, which was the Tawbah. The process of tazkiyah and soul searching and elevation can only happen when what we call the bleeding of the soul stops and a new life begins. When we become regretful of the past, that we talked about this, that you reflect on the past and you become regretful of the past, and you make a clear determination that you are not, one is not going to go to the past. That is the beginning. And naturally, after Tawbah, the first step is to be mindful of wajibat and mustahabbat. You cannot become successful in the tazkiyah of your soul if the basic wajibat and mustahabbat are ignored, and other conditions that we talked about over there. So tazkiyah is necessary for the soul to be elevated, and absence of tazkiyah ultimately states the verse وَقَدْ خَابَ مَنْ دَسَّاهَا. Das, tadsis in Arabic language means to corrupt and to destroy. So the soul could be destroyed. We have a number of ahadith. كُلُّ مَوْلُودٍ يُولَدُ عَلَى الْفِطْرَةِ. Every soul, when it's at the moment of birth, is pure. إِلَّا, the necessary conditions that we impose, what we call the nurture and nature conditions, that ultimately leads to corruption or one or the other. But putting it in the narrative of hadith, it says إِلَّا أَنَّ أَبَوَاهُمَا, the mawlud's parents are the one that could lead the person, the newly born, ultimately towards being Christian, Jews, or something else, or keeping that person on the right path. So the nature ultimately has an effect. But it doesn't mean when we reach the age of maturity, somehow qada and qadar controls and we have no say. This is what I wanted to point out. If we had no say in the physical development from the moment of birth, so long as we provide the necessary sustenance and we avoid the sickness and disease, it's like a mushroom. The body goes through its own process, grows from childhood to adulthood, from adulthood to maturity, and maturity coming down. Spiritual elevation, arc of ascent or arc of descent, is in our own hand, the path that we choose. As a matter of fact, Amir al-Mu'mineen, when we read that khutbah, he talks about being controlled by nafs al-ammara as a state of being. You choose a state of being. You allow yourself for nafs al-ammara to be in full control. When you reach nafs al-lawwama, again, another state of being, that you allow yourself now an elevated, you follow a particular path and you elevate yourself to the stage where nafs al-ammara does not have full control, still has control, and ultimately for the elite they reach nafs al-mutmainna. But this process of controlling the soul, the fact that Quran puts it in a special linguistic structure, قد خاب من دساها وقد the Surah Al-Shams, قد أفلح, succeeded. So this is clearly indicates our own free will. So the debate that some Asha'ira have regarding that the success and failure of us is somehow predestined is rejected in this way. Although the new Ash'aris are beginning to modify this concept of the classical understanding of qada and qadar, but going back, because we have free will, the concept of success or failure is something that we really need to deal with it. So قد أفلح من زكاها وقد خاب من دساها. Tazkiyah is something necessary, and we should not understand the concept of tazkiyah to be seasonally adjusted. Only remember during certain periods of the year, month of Ramadan or any other time. Tazkiyah is a general process that one has to go through all the time. Ultimately, ulama of akhlaq, ethics and spirituality, they make a list of things that we have to deal step by step. Number 1 is tawbah. Number 2 is ibadah. Number 3 is fasting. These are not talking about fasting during the month of Ramadan, the obligatory fasting. These are recommended fasting that we go through for the purification of the soul and be able to control the nafs al-ammara and so on. We talked about the concept of tawbah last week, and see the last 2 conditions that were reserved for the elite. These are the ones that now we have to focus on our soul and our body to transform. And because the soul has got used to the idea of submitting to the as the hadith, the Amir al-Mu'mineen salawatullah salam alayhi in Nahj al-Balagha says regarding tawbah, as your soul has got accustomed to the sweetness of sin, now you have to force it to get away from that comfort zone and to restart something again, and change that takes place within it. So these are the concept of tazkiyah. We can elaborate on it inshallah in another lecture, but it was just necessary to complement the concept of tawbah that I talked about last week. Tawbah is the beginning. We ultimately need to follow and purify our souls. And purification of the soul requires a degree of struggle and jihad. And if you remember the concept of jihad al-akbar, when the battalions come back to Medina after a battle, and the Holy Prophet says that well, you have come out of Jihad al-Asghar, now you have to deal with the Jihad al-Akbar. They say, what is the Jihad al-Akbar? They say Jihad al-Nafs. Now the struggle is to deal with yourself, to be able to control. Jihad al-Nafs, Jihad al-Akbar is the same as the concept of tazkiyah, that you remove yourself from the shackle of Nafs al-Ammara that is controlled, that controls everything, and you begin to walk slowly and gradually. Urafa, they talk about two arcs, the arc of ascent and the arc of descent. The arc of ascent, which literally means getting closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The arc of descent goes down towards Nafs al-Ammara. And in another surah in the Holy Quran, أحسن الخالقين وأسفل السافلين, this refers to the two conditions of those who have been able to purify their soul and those who haven't been able, and literally descended to the point where Quran says that the beasts are better than them. Another expression that is used in the Holy Quran. Then we move to the second part, which is the brief tafsir or commentary on Surah, what we call Masad, Abu Lahab, or anything else. If we go back to the early history of Islam, three characters stand up as the major opponents to the Holy Prophet. And these were the wealthy of the Quraysh, or at least the Jahiliyyah Arab society. These three are Abu Sufyan, Abu Lahab, and Abu Jahl. Literally the trio that conducted everything against Islam. They used their wealth, they used their power position within the tribe, and they used everything that they could get to prevent Islam on personal attack about the Holy Prophet, and preventing Muslims from converting to Islam, and even killing some Muslims. Ammar ibn Yasir, Sumayya, his mother, was killed by Abu Jahl. And these are the three characters. Regarding Abu Jahl, Abu Sufyan, the story is well known. He resisted the Holy Prophet, he resisted converting to Islam, and he opposed Islam until the victory of Mecca. And if you listen to the khutbah of Sayyidah Zainab sallallahu alayha in Sham, when she stood before Yazid, she told Yazid that even the conversion to Islam of your grandfather was to protect his skin. It wasn't done for the sake of really conversion. But remaining these two characters, Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab. Abu Jahl is a character or a designation that is given to him by the Holy Prophet. His name is Amr ibn Husham ibn Mughira al-Makhzumi, and his title was Abu al-Hakam. But because of his enmity towards Islam and towards the Holy Prophet, the Holy Prophet gave him the title of Abu Jahl and called him the Pharaoh of the Ummah. The Pharaoh of Ummah al-Islamiyya, to that degree. Strangely enough, both Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl, they died in the battle during the few days from the Battle of Badr. The story of the Battle of Badr is very unique. The historians claim that Abu Sufyan, well, we know about the main trade of people of Mecca. It was primarily رحلة الشتاء والصيف, business deals, that during Shita they go to say towards Sham, during Saif they go towards Sham, and during Shita they go towards Yemen and the south, and buy and sell. These major figures had their own caravan that they traveled around with it, and either sometimes leading the caravan themselves, and sometimes by their own designated leaders that they led the caravan. In the second year of Hijrah, Abu Sufyan was leading a major caravan coming back from Sham, going back to Mecca. People gave him the news that the Muslims in Medina are laying a trap for you and they are going to attack your caravan. Abu Sufyan sends a message to Mecca that help, SAS or whatever, we need support. Abu Jahl starts a battalion immediately, because they were ready to start a battalion of about 1,000 people, fully equipped, to go and support the caravan. Once they get close, they realize that it was false news, and so there was no attack. Abu Jahl, instead of going back, being extremely arrogant, that now we have this power, we might as well go ahead and attack people of Medina and wipe them out. They settled near a place called Badr. The news came to the Holy Prophet. The Holy Prophet had to organize a ramshackle army of 313, whatever. That if you look at the description given in books of history, you will be surprised how these people were able actually to make it to the place of Badr, let alone fight such a strong army. They say that they only had 7 camels, 8 or 9 or probably 10 or 15 horses, about 20 or 30 swords, that people would take a sword, go to the battle, come back and give the sword to somebody else to go and fight. So they all get barakah of the fighting. And yet 72 of the most, not only famous, the strongest men of Mecca were killed during this battle, including Abu Jahl, the leader of the battle, the leader of the caravan and the leader of the battalion. According to historian, Abdullah ibn Mas'ud was the one who cut his head. But before the battle started, the Holy Prophet prayed, "O Lord, don't let the pharaoh of this ummah escape," meaning Abu Jahl, because he has corrupted, and don't let him escape. Abu Jahl was killed within the battle. The news came to people. Abu Lahab stayed back. There was a deal in the past within the Arab Jahiliyyah that you could send somebody else on your behalf to go to the battle if they owe you money and you have no hope of recovering that money. So Abu Lahab went and sent somebody else in his place to go and to fight the battle, but he stayed behind. He didn't participate. Once the news of the battle came to Mecca, that literally 1,000 fully equipped people of a battalion of Mecca was wiped out, Abu Lahab became very angry. Abbas, the uncle of the Holy Prophet, had a slave in his house that had converted to Islam. Abu Lahab was sitting there, and he said, well, this is miracle from Allah that they managed to rout the Mushrikeen's army, or Kafirin's army. Abu Lahab became very angry, picked up a stick and beat him over the head. Abbas's wife picked up the same stick and beat Abu Lahab over the head. According to the historians, now you can't beat anyone but the slave guy because he says something that you don't like. Subhanallah, according to the historians, I cannot say yes or no, say that his head began bleeding and the bleeding never stopped and infected and died. They threw him out of the Medina. So Battle of Badr got rid of the 2 major figures opposing Abu Lahab and Abu Jahl. Remained one, Abu Sufyan, constantly undermining Islam, until finally in the victory of Mecca. Even then, when he converted to Islam, he would still make comments that he really deep down he had no respect for Islam. It was just afraid of the fact that now time has changed and Muslims have come to dominate the political as well as the military structure. They cannot now Mecca cannot muster a strong army to go back. In the Battle of Badr, they only had 330. Now they have come back to Mecca 8 years later or 6 years later with 12,000 fully armed. It's just not possible. So they had to. The only surah in the Holy Quran that a name of a strong opponent of the Holy Prophet is being mentioned is in this surah, Surah Abu Lahab. With regard to Abu Jahl, historians, commentators of the Holy Quran claim that over 32 verses in the Holy Quran exist that indirectly makes reference to Abu Jahl. وقال الذين كفروا لا تسمعوا لهذا القرآن والغوا فيه لعلكم تغلبون. Those again, remember we talked about قل يا أيها الكافرون. Quran points to them. Abu Jahl is one of those people that with Abu Lahab used to stand behind the Holy Prophet. Every time the Holy Prophet approached a group of people to talk to them or recited Quran, these two would come in and say, oh, don't listen, he's mentally retarded. If you don't want to hear, make noises during the recitation of the Quran. We have similar story in the Surah Nuh. The Surah Nuh asks Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that every time I talk to them about Allah, they put their fingers in their ears so they don't hear. Abu Jahl and Abu Lahab would tell people, make noises so that the sound of Quran would be muffled and you don't hear them. So this is one of the verses in the Holy Quran that is in the Encyclopedia of Islam makes a list of the 32 verses. May the hand of Abu Lahab and himself be perished. Tabbat yada Abi Lahabin wa tab. So the first tabbat is the hand. The second tab is for his own himself. Or he will perish and his hand. Because these all three, they were somehow proud of their wealth. That their wealth is the one that identified them. Quran says his wealth avails him not. It's not going to be useful. Nor what he has earned. This wealth of, when it comes to the hereafter and the day of judgment, all the material advantages that we have or one has in this world is not going to be useful unless we have sent something forward for that day. Remember in discussion that we have had in the past, I said that Quran has a unique approach to the concept of wealth and makes a distinction between possession and ownership. What you earn and you keep here in the bank or in under the pillows or somewhere else, it's only what you possess. You don't own. What you give for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and is recorded under your name, فَقَدِّمُوا لَأَنفُسِكُمْ, you have sent something as a deposit for the hereafter, it becomes yours. And naturally in our life, it's very easy. You become the Rockefeller. If you haven't sent anything forward, you are leaving it to your descendant, to the heirs, and they will be enjoying themselves, having a comfortable life, probably coming and kicking your grave for not leaving them even more. But none of them are actually yours. Because at the day of judgment is what you have sent, قَدِّمُوا لَأَنفُسِكُمْ, literally save for the future. So in this verse, when it talks about his wealth is not going to be useful for him because he hasn't sent anything forward. It's only the material life. One thing again as a general information, Quraysh has about nearly 15 or 16 different tribes within this Quraysh. Bani Hashim is one, which is the most honored one, the Holy Prophet, Abdul Muttalib, Abu Talib, and others, Bani Umayyah, Bani Makhzum, and others are part of these tribes. Abu Jahl And Abu Lahab was part of the Holy Prophet, the uncle of the Holy Prophet. But look at the connection. He married the sister of Abu Sufyan, Jamil. And naturally, Jamil and Bani Umayyah's mindset affected him to the degree that he no longer associated, brainwashed, no longer associated with Bani Hashim at all. Stood in opposition to everything that Bani Hashim stood for. And Muawiyah, there is a story about Muawiyah one day saw Aqil, the brother of Amir al-Mu'mineen, and said, kind of condescendingly wanted to tell him about Abu Lahab. He said, "Oh, what happened to your uncle Abu Lahab?" He said, "Oh, I'll tell you where to find him. You go to hell, and you go deep down until you get to such a place. You turn right, over there you see your father as well as your auntie. They are sitting over there. Abu Lahab is sitting next to them." So Abu Lahab literally became, because of his marriage, became part of Bani Umayyah. And those people that literally opposed the Holy Prophet. His wife, Jamil, despite the fact that she was from the aristocracy, and technically those days women of aristocracy would distinguish their lifestyle from the rest of the community from what we call the riffraffs, by the way they dress and everything else, by the jewelry that they carry, etc. Jamil used to carry a very rough rope around her neck to go to the outside Mecca and bring thorns that she collected from the desert to come and put in front of the path of the Holy Prophet, so that the Holy Prophet would be injured as he passes by to go to the mosque, or pour it over his head, or something of the sort. His wealth avails him not, neither what he earns. He shall enter blazing fire. Now look, Abu Lahab is a title. They say, historians claim, that his face was red like fire, and his father Abdul Muttalib gave him this title, Abu Lahab, the owner of a red face. Quran uses a metaphor, but turns the metaphor around. This person who was called Abu Lahab, the fiery face, is going to have a fiery face in the hereafter. The face is going to be fiery indeed. And his wife, carrier of the firewood. Commentators have debated huge amount whether this is in reference in the hereafter, or whether it's in reference to the material life. According to most historians, they say no, it is because this is what, despite the fact that she was from aristocracy, yet she used to carry a rough rope around her neck to be able to tie what she collected as thorns in the desert to her back, and tie it to this rope and be able to carry it. Upon her neck is a rope of palm fiber. In Arabic language, there are two words that used for neck: jid and unuq. Whenever the designation is rough, the unuq is being used. And whenever the designation is nice and gentle, jid is being used. Quran makes a reference. The neck of aristocratic women of that time should have been treated gently with jewelry and everything else. Look what she did to herself, and put something rough against her neck. So the jid of that was treated by women of aristocracy delicately, she behaved in this manner. And this is exactly how she's going to be rewarded in the day of judgment. But when it comes to, for example, on the day of judgment, chains being around somebody's neck, a'naq, salasila fi a'naqihim. The word of unuq is being used in various verses. So Quran here says that upon her neck is a rope of palm fiber, means both a condescending remark for Jamil, as well as somehow condemning her behavior and giving her a title based on the kind of things that she did. She was among one of the most strongest. Abu Sufyan's wife, Muawiyah's mother, Hind, was another one. These two ladies worked hard in undermining Islam and destroying Islam. Even in the Battle of Uhud, Muawiyah's mother, Abu Sufyan's wife, Hind, was the one who paid her own slave to go and kill Hamza, and once Hamza was killed, to literally open up the chest and see if she can take out the liver and bring a piece of that liver, because she wanted to bite it, because in revenge of her people that were killed during the Battle of Badr by Hamza himself. And this is something that, again, in the confrontation with Yazid, we see being reminded that what is your background? Your grandmother is the one who attempted to bite the liver of a Sahaba. And your auntie is, your father's auntie is what we know about Jamil, that there is a verse in the Holy Quran in condemnation of her. So Abu Lahab is the one that Quran designates one chapter to him in condemnation of his deeds, but primarily for us to be mindful of not to be delusional with our position, power, and everything else. We think that material life is going to protect us forever and secure some kind of eternity or longevity for us. No, it ultimately comes to an end, and what matters on the Day of Judgment is the good deed, the tazkiyah, that we have been successful during our life. Otherwise, man dassaha, and what Amir al-Mu'mineen says, that the group that are corrupted, then whether it's Abu Lahab or Abu Jahl or Abu Sufyan or anybody else, they will be treated with Allah's wrath on the Day of Judgment. Let me stop here and see if we can proceed with any questions.